From garage sales to thrift store aisles, we hunt for treasures, stacking them in piles. Hustling hard, making deals all day, flipping finds, turning profit our way. Pure Hustle Podcast guides our quest, learning tricks to be the best. On eBay we make our name, reselling dreams, winning the game. Pure Hustle Podcast guides our quest, learning tricks to be the best. On eBay we make our name, reselling dreams, winning the game.
Welcome to Pure Hustle Podcast. I'm Mike.
And this is Orlando, and we're here for another live minisode.
Yes, a live minisode. We love our lives, and we are currently streaming over on X or Twitter, however you want to call it. We're on YouTube. We're on Facebook. So go ahead and let us know in the comments if you're here. We'd love to interact with you guys. And what are we talking about today, Orlando?
We're talking about the exciting eBay Q2 earnings report.
Woo woo!
That's what everybody
that is invigorating right there. Or maybe not. We'll see how this goes.
But I think it's important. I think as a full-time reseller, it's really important. But I think as a part-time reseller, it's really important. So you know the direction that eBay is going in and how things are going. And so, you know, a lot of people are like, oh, you know, you don't want to focus on the macro, but the macro is important. And so earnings report came out. And guess what? eBay was profitable. eBay was doing well, but for not the reasons that you think it was doing well. So let's talk about the very let's talk about the things they highlighted. Okay, and maybe you've seen some of this. So usually every earnings report they always highlight certain things, and so on this one they highlighted all the new things that they've introduced. So they talked about a lot of the things we've already discussed in the podcast, right? How eBay now, you know, they have Venmo, right? So I don't know if that's changed. I'd like to see the stats, whether that changed things. I like it. I think it's a good thing. I think everyone I know uses Venmo. It's very rare to see people that don't use Venmo. So I thought it was good. They talked about how they have these seller capital that they offer now, these loans. And if you haven't heard about those loans, you know, you can go on the eBay side or you can check out. I think I mentioned it 2 podcasts ago. I think it's a pretty good deal if you're looking to scale up and you're looking for a way to get some money to be able to get some cash flow. And then also
before we move on, I wanted to jump on that Venmo one. I'm interested to see what people maybe say in the comments or if they want to email in later on this. It is interesting because I do think that is one of those things that's, hey, Venmo is a good idea in a sense that a lot of the younger people, I mean, not just younger people. My parents are using Venmo, right? But it is one of those things that if you talk to anybody in Gen Z or any millennial, yeah, if you pay for their coffee, they're like, oh, I'll Venmo you, right? Like that's become the new word to like, as how I'm going to pay you is I'm going to Venmo you. So I see it as a useful tool, but I just wonder, like when I'm buying things online, even people who use Venmo, I don't see it being an extra step just to use a credit card, right? Like Venmo seems to be like one of those things like, hey, Orlando, I want to get you some money. I don't carry cash on me. And for some reason, because you're a person and not a business, you don't take credit card. But I have another way of paying you. It's Venmo. So I don't know if Venmo, because you still would have to set up your Venmo account on your eBay, is much different than just putting in your credit card. Like if I'm buying something on Amazon, I'm not going to have a problem paying with my credit card. I'm not going to be like, oh, yes, now they take Venmo. Just take a debit or a credit card. So I don't know how much of a difference it makes. To me, it almost feels like that like grasp of like, hey, here's how we're going to reach maybe some younger audience, moving them into eBay. But it kind of gets the feel of, yeah, but that's not necessarily how people are using Venmo anyways. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe people keep a lot of money in their Venmo accounts because they're interacting and that's just an easy way for them to pay. And they'd rather do that than their bank account or their credit card. But to me, it just feels like, like when an old person is trying to be hip, and so they like dab in front of like, high school kids, and high school kids just cringe, and they're like, that was like 5 years ago or 10 years ago, and it's not cool anyway. So that's just almost how it feels to me.
Okay. I don't know. It's possible. It's very, very possible. Hey, before we move on, just wanted to say hi to everybody that's in the chat. Inglewood Deals, what's going on? Diamond Ray, how are you? Jonathan, Miss Lachey Resells. Appreciate all of you. Yeah, if you have any questions too, leave us some questions. We're really, we want to be interactive during this live stream. So let us know. Other things before we get into the numbers, they highlighted their growth in collectibles, and if you want to hear more about this, I talk about this on Wednesday's episode. But eBay is very big on collectibles. I don't know if you guys caught, but Ken Golden, which has his own show on Netflix, I talked about it too on the podcast. It's a really cool show. But Golden Collectibles, I thought was like very entertaining. But now they're doing a lot of eBay stuff, right? And so it's just kind of the direction that eBay is going, that they want to highlight collectibles. Authentication is another thing. They were talking about how they just authenticated their 10 millionth item. And then refurbishing, which I thought was interesting. I wonder if the emphasis on refurbished items is going to cost us everything sellers over time, right? So when we talk about refurbishing, is the companies themselves taking used items and like putting their stamp on it, saying that, hey, this is quality, this is what we sell. So for example, Dyson, like they do vacuums, golf clubs, some of the golf club companies, Seagate hard drives. I've seen all kinds of different companies. And I wonder if now, like, if you find used electronics, you're going to find yourself with more competition unless you find like those vintage pieces. Do you get what I'm saying?
No, absolutely. And one of the things with refurbishing, I mean, I know there are some people who can, certain products, they can be like licensed to refurbish. They work on them. You'd have to be a really niche down seller to benefit from that. Well, yeah, a lot of times it's the companies themselves that are doing the refurbishing on that. But yeah, looking at that, I kind of think maybe again, the pull for this is because if I'm buying, a lot of times when I'm buying electronics, especially if it's like newer things, if I'm buying a cell phone, I typically buy used, and I'm typically going to buy used refurbished. It gives you a sense of confidence. But if people know that they can find those items on eBay, the more buyers on eBay potentially mean more buyers moving to your stuff. Like, even though it's a little annoying when you see, hey, it looks like eBay is like, I know they get a lot on their automotives, eBay automotives, and man, they're really advertising heavily for eBay automotives. But if customers who weren't normally going to go on eBay are like, oh, I guess I should check out this eBay thing, looks like they have the stuff I need for my car. Once people start spending on a platform, they're more likely to spend in other categories. So it could be a net benefit to us if people know that they can go get their refurbished cell phones and their refurbished computers from on eBay from the actual manufacturers, then while they're there, they might find other things on eBay as well. So it's not the worst thing.
All right, so let's land on that. When you said, hey, if somebody's willing to buy something on eBay, they're going to buy other things. And that's, again, the focus of eBay. Like, that's what they're looking for. So we had talked about back, I don't know, a while back, how eBay has shifted from like being the place where like they want everybody to know that, hey, if you want something, you can come to eBay. Now they want it like, they want to focus on those people that will just buy over and over and over again at eBay. They don't want the one-time buyer that is like, oh, I needed, a certain microphone I couldn't find, and so I'm going to go to eBay to find it. No, they want the person that says, hey, I need the microphone, and I need the stand, and I need the outlet, and I need the mixer, and I need all these different pieces. And they're called enthusiastic buyers, or enthusiast buyers. Okay. And the reason I bring this up is because eBay has shifted from like back in the day where like, hey, you can source whatever and list everything, that now I think it's they're wanting people to focus more on just certain categories. And I do think that's going to bring you more sales if you just focus on those categories, because they want those enthusiast buyers. So I know Mike hates it when I do this, but I pulled this from the transcripts and I thought this was pretty interesting. Somebody had asked, I wanted to ask about active buyers. This metric has been flattish for a while now, but if eBay is to sustain low to mid-single digit GMV growth, so GMV is gross merchandise value, that's the money that eBay makes off of sales, okay, gross merchandise value. Active buyers, at least enthusiast buyers, probably have to start growing again at some point. So this person basically telling the CEO like, hey, we've had the same amount of buyers for years on end. Nothing's really changed. Like, so we need this to change. And so, and then they continue to, is there anything investors can look to get comfortable with our audience growth? Maybe some incremental color or detail you could provide on how these metrics might be trending within focus fat categories as a proxy for what's coming forward. Thank you. So Jamie Oni, the CEO, says, yes, we're exactly where I thought we would be and where we intended to be. So he's okay with the flat amount of active buyers. Our active buyer count of 132 million, which is down. I think at one point it was like 180 million back in like 2018, 2017. Says was fractionally positive on a year-on-year basis for the first time since early 2021, and we've seen consistent improvements in our year-over-year trends over the last couple of years. And then I'll skip a little bit. Then he says, so I've been saying for a while, and I want to know, active buyers are not the core metric we're focused on, but we're pleased that the changes we made to our buyer acquisition strategy are improving our ability to attract and retain active buyers, because that does help us drive what we really are driving for, which is our enthusiast buyer strategy, which is those people that are shopping on the site that drives 70% of our GMV, and our enthusiastic number has been consistent at 16 million for several quarters. They're buying more and remain healthy with an average spend of approximately $3,100 a year.
Yeah, this is that mentality of quantity over, or quality over quantity, right? If you're, even we do this, right? When we're selling goods, you got two options. I could sell 100 items and make $10 an item, or I could sell one item and make $1,000 on the item, right? Like you a lot of times are looking for the quality over the quantity. And I understand that drive. And so, yeah, so there's got to be things you do to keep that number. But to me, it almost sounds like a way of just manipulating the data to say like, hey, we're not actually like growing our user base, but like the user base that we haven't lost yet are really spending a lot. And, that can be a good thing, right? The podcast can be like that, like at times where we have, we're not the biggest YouTubers, right? Like we do not have the biggest YouTube reselling channel. That's for sure. But we have a good core of people who are consistently in our podcast, that are in our comments, that are on the Discord. And that group is like, that's our core group. Now the reality is it'd be great if we could double that core group. But if all of a sudden our podcast numbers, everything dropped and all we have left is the core, we never get anybody else, we're never reaching out to anybody else. I mean, yeah, that's still a win, but as a company, as an organization, you still want to be growing. And so I don't know, to me, it seems like a little bit of a manipulating the data to say, hey, yeah, we continue, that number shrinks. Our active buyers is shrinking, but the active buyers we do have are enthusiast buyers. At least they're still spending a lot. And it's like, yeah, how can we increase that number? Like, how can we increase the total number? Because again, it's a numbers game. If you doubled the size of eBay, like if you could just use a magic wand and tomorrow there's 260 million users on eBay instead of 130 million users on eBay. If you could do that, you're going to increase the GMV. That's just the way it's going to happen, even if only a small percentage is doing most of the buying anyway. So yeah, I still think they need to find a way to be bringing in people and growing their total user base and not just worrying about those big spenders.
I just don't think that's a focus. And I just don't think, I think it's become very evident over the last 2-3 years that, again, eBay is not the place where like you can source whatever and sell whatever. Like, I think that's slowly changing. I think you got to be more focused. And he's made another comment. That same person asked a question. They had a follow-up about trends and enthusiastic buyers. And he responded with, so if you watch buyers come, they're going to buy $5,000 in watches on average, but then they're going to spend $5,000 in other categories across those focus categories and non-focus category. Similarly, a handbag buyer will come in, and if they purchase $500 plus handbag, they'll spend $2,500 in handbags, but $5,000 in other categories. So part of why we focus on the enthusiast buyer is not just that 70% buyer, but it's because of the flywheel effect that it creates for the overall marketplace, for focus categories, and for our core categories. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like what I sense is that what it's saying is, hey, if you want to be successful on eBay, you have to niche down. Like you have to focus on a certain category, and you keep getting those people, and you create the enthusiast buyers. But if you're the people that buys a huge variety of stuff, which is what Mike and I do, we're everything sellers, well, hopefully you get the leftovers of the enthusiast buyers. Like that's how I read it. And so to me, I think I know what I'm going to do, and I've already been doing it. Like if you see my Instagram post over the last few weeks, most of the items I'm selling are collectible items. Like it's very rare that I'll post like these shoes that I sold, or this Hawaiian shirt that sold, or something like that. And usually it's some kind of collectible, some kind of vintage, because those are the items that are really doing well for me. All the other stuff, like it's really slow traction. Let us know in the comments, where do you land on this? What are your thoughts on this? So that was I thought those were interesting comments. So it goes back to the discussion on GMV. Okay, so GMV, how much is the eBay? Why are they still in the black? Why are they making good money? Okay, so their GMV was 18.4 billion. Okay, which was up from last quarter, which is kind of interesting because Q1 and Q4 are usually better. I mean, sorry, I keep messing this up. It is down from Q4 and Q1, which is reasonable, but they were higher than Q2 last year. Q2 last year, they're 18.2 billion, and this year they're 18.4 billion. So they're doing all right. They're doing a little bit better. It's not a huge growth, right? But I'm telling you, those resellers that are selling those collectibles, that are selling those focus categories that eBay really wants, I think they're doing a lot better than sellers that are just, like me, that are just trying to find things, a huge genre of things to sell, just because I really do think the algorithm is kicking in and looking for those enthusiast buyers.
Yeah. One thing I want to highlight, I'm not trying to be the negative Nancy on this episode here, but
I was being pretty negative already.
So you said that Q2 last year was 18.2 billion, and then 18.4 billion this Q4 or Q2.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, okay, that was an increase. And not that I'm trying to get into an inflation discussion at all, but that's like what, like I don't even think that number comes close, or maybe it's, if you account for inflation, like how much is that? Like,
yeah,
did they really grow, or did they actually lose?
Point. Yeah, it's very funny. I can't argue with you. All right, so maybe it's not that positive. All right, now eBay's positive, and everybody already knows what I'm going to say, is that their ads revenue went up. Their promoted listings revenue went up.
If you're a stakeholder in eBay, that's great news.
It is great news.
If you own stock in eBay, the fact that they keep making money, great for you. But how are they making that money?
And it is
my money, Orlando. It's your money, Orlando. That's how they're making the money.
So in Q2 of last year, they made 367 million on promoted listings, right? Their ad revenue. This year, in the same, quarter two, they made 398 million. They actually made more in Q2 with ad revenue than they made in Q4 of 2023 and Q1 of 2023. Okay, because those numbers were 393, 384, and we're at 398. And so again, I've been saying this for a long time. I do think eBay wants you to promote. I don't know what the magic number is. I don't know if you should be crazy like Orlando, and I don't even have a cap on my dynamic ad rate spending. I just let it run. Because to me, I'd rather have a sale and have eBay take a little, bigger chunk than have zero sales because I didn't promote. I showed this. Did I show this? I don't think I think I need to post this. I posted on the Discord how in April, when I turned off my promoted listings the way I had it. So I had it at dynamic ad rate. I had no cap on it. And, some items I had like 12% that was coming out, but I had sales coming through. And then when eBay advised me to like cap everything at 5%, don't do dynamic ad rate, my sales plummeted. They plummeted so much that even though I went back to what I was doing back in May, I'm still not at the same amount of impressions that I was before that change. That's how big of a deal promoted listings is. I feel like it's one of those things that, it's like, well, it depends on where you land about marriage. But like once you're married, you're stuck. You're stuck with that person forever. Like there's no changing. Once you have promoted listings, like that's it. There's no ending it. Like you can't do it. Either way,
put the toothpaste back into the
no.
into the tube.
Once it's done, it's done. So I warn people, if you're like, oh, I'm going to test out promoted listings, be careful, because once you see those impressions and then you turn it off and you see your impressions go down, your sales go down, it's a scary world. I forget who it was. It might have been John Galt or somebody who had tested that out, and they saw like things plummet, and they're like, "Whoa, this is bad." And
but
it
does
is
it plummet? The reality is, does it plummet below what it would have been in that same circumstance if you never did promoted listings? I don't think so. Maybe
that's
maybe
what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Is once you do and you try to go back, then you're doomed.
Just because you're used to getting higher sales, or because you actually think their algorithm is going to punish you beyond, like if you were a new store that never. Maybe.
Yes. Can call me tinfoil hat, call me whatever. I think that's the case. Like once they hooked it in, they're like, see, we told you would get better sales and you said no. So guess what? You're not going to get those sales. That's just my thoughts. I know I sound crazy, but that's what it seems to me based on all the evidence anecdotally that I've collected over this time. So, hey, yeah, that's it. That's our minisode. That's everything. And so if you want to hear more, we actually go into into the transcripts from the eBay call on Wednesday. Appreciate everybody here. Thank you, Anik, Diamond, Lindy, everybody that's in the comments. Really appreciate. We did not attack anybody here. We might have attacked maybe eBay and maybe the eBay CEO a little bit. But hey, Jamie, hopefully, we'll catch you at an event. If we ever go live, I want an eBay open where we meet people, living people, like I can shake hands, not like the little events that you go to. No, I mean like big eBay open so we can meet a lot of people. So that's my hope for 2025. All right, everyone, thanks for tuning in. And with that being said, make sure to be real,
be relevant,
and be reselling late.
Peace.